So, today we will continue our reading from Nectar of Instruction and Upadeśāmṛta. The first session will be till 3:30. At 3:30 sharp we will take a break and then we'll resume again at 4:30. Since most of you were here yesterday and day before, I will not give an introduction to this Nectar of Instruction, but I'll just continue with text 8 of Sri Upadeśāmṛta. The Upadeśāmṛta was compiled by Rupa Goswami, and it talks about the importance of mind and sense control in order to make spiritual advancement. So yesterday we discussed text 7, in which the sweetness of the holy name of the Lord was being described. Today we will discuss text 8. You can repeat the Sanskrit after me, and then Vishnu Das can do the word meaning and the translation and the purport. Tan Nama Rupa Charitadi Sukirtananu Smrityo Kamena Rasana Manasi Niyojya Teshtan Raje Tad Anuragi Jananugami Kalam Nayan Kilam Iti Upadeśāmṛta Saram Tannama Rupa Charitadi Sukirtananu Smrityo Kamena Rasana Manasi Niyojya Teshtan Vajetan Anuragi Jananugami Kalam Nayadakilam It Upadeśāmṛta Tannama Rupa Charitadi Sukirtananu Smrityo Kamena Rasana Manasi Niyojya Teshtan Vajetan Anuragi Jananugami Kalam Nayadakilam It Upadeśāmṛta Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakya Chakshunatanyena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manovistam Sthapitam Mena Bhutale Soyam Rupakadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapadakam Shri Gurun Vaishnavanascha Shri Rupam Sagajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sadevam Sarvetam Savadhutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakkhanitamscha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Shri Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Ram Hare Hare Tannama Rupa Charitadi Sukirtananu Smrityo Kramena Rasana Manasi Niyojya Tishtam Vajetan Anuragi Jananugami Kalam Ned Abilam It Upadeśāmṛta. So, in this verse, Rupa Goswami is pointing out that the most important aspect or the most important point for a devotee is that he must utilize 24 hours a day in service to Krishna. In other words, devotional service is full-time business, not part-time business. This instruction is very similar to Krishna's concluding instructions in the Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna says, Sarva dharma paritajya mam ekam shanam vrajaham tvam sarva papi bhayo mokshami masutaha. It's very similar to what Krishna says in the Gita. Give up all varieties of religiousness and just surrender unto me. I will protect you from all sinful reactions. The advice that Rupa Goswami is giving us in this verse is most practical if we want to make spiritual advancement. Rupa Goswami is saying that we should dedicate 24 hours of our time to chanting and reading and hearing the glories of the Lord. In other words, one should not think, now when I complete my 16 rounds chanting, I can lock up my beads in my cupboard and I don't have to chant Krishna's name again till tomorrow morning. So, human life should be so molded that we should be in a position to remember Krishna for 24 hours a day. An idle brain is a devil's workshop. So the moment we are not thinking of Krishna, the mind will forcibly be carried away into dangerous territories. So 24 hours a day, we should chant and remember the glories of the Lord. You may say, this is impossible. This is making Krishna consciousness very difficult. It's not for me. You may say, I thought I just have to chant 16 rounds a day. First I thought maybe I just have to chant 3 or 4 rounds a day. Then they told me, okay, 16 rounds a day. So I've agreed to chant 16 rounds a day. It takes 2 hours. But now Rupa Goswami is saying 24 hours. This is impossible. But if you don't chant your rounds attentively every day for 2 hours, then you will not be able to remember Krishna. Just like when you put food in the stomach, all the parts of the body get nourished. Similarly, by chanting at least for 2 hours, 16 rounds, very attentively, avoiding the 10 offenses, one gets inspired to think of Krishna for the remaining 22 hours. So, if the tongue should be engaged properly, and if the tongue is engaged properly, the mind will also be engaged properly. But if the tongue is not engaged properly, then there is no question of engaging the mind properly. Therefore it is said, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smarnam, Pada Sevanam, Archam, Vanyam, Dasyam, Sakhyam, Atma Nivedam. There are 9 processes for which you can practice self-realization. So by constantly hearing the transcendental glories of the Lord, the mind will also come in control and think about Krishna. It is a fact of life that we generally remember somebody that you have talked about. Just like sometimes you may receive a letter from somebody at home. So the moment you get the letter, you think about that person. Just like, suppose you receive a letter from a friend back in the village, and when you read the letter from that friend, you automatically begin to think about that friend also. So, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smarnam. Shravanam, Kirtanam forms the foundation of spiritual life. If you have chanted attentively, then you can also think attentively. If you hear properly, then you can preach properly. Prabhupada used to tell us a story that when he would go to attend Bhakti Siddhantaji's lectures, many Swamis who were in the audience would also get up and go away after some time on some excuse or the other. Prabhupada at that time was in the Grihastha ashram. But Prabhupada would never go away. Prabhupada would very carefully sit down and listen to his spiritual master's lectures, even if he did not understand one word. And Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati said that this boy hears very attentively. And because he hears very attentively, he is going to preach very attentively. So, hearing is very important in controlling the mind. Very often we chant our rounds, but we don't attentively hear what we are chanting. This is called mechanical chanting. Your hand is just moving from one beat to another. And when you finish chanting one round, hopefully 108 times, then you touch the beat to the forehead, confident that you have chanted one good quality round. So, chanting has to be very, very attentive. You must make sure that when you do your japa mala, every syllable is carefully heard. And if you're hearing attentively, Hare Krishna, right to left. Krishna is not different from his name. So when you chant and attentively hear, then that Krishna will even manifest himself. Therefore, attentive chanting is a must. Last night, Atriya Rishi Prabhu was telling me he asked me a question about attentive chanting. I told him I'll answer this question in the whole class. Fortunately, today the verse is talking on a theme that is very close to what the answer would have been. That is, attentive chanting alone can take away our sinful desires. So, we have to think how we can engage 24 hours a day in service to Krishna. The materialists are engaged 24 hours a day in sense enjoyment. So the devotee similarly meditates for 24 hours a day on how to serve Krishna. So this is clear that the transcendental pastimes of the Lord are beyond the influence of the material modes. Therefore the devotee can think about them for 24 hours and still be happy. Rupa Goswami in this verse is saying, you must engage the mind and the tongue 24 hours a day. You may want to know what are the practical means through which the mind can be engaged in service to Krishna. Some of these procedures were discussed yesterday and day before, such as thinking about the Lord, His pastimes, His desires, the deities that you have in the temple, the paintings that you see in the books, and you have the unlimited pastimes of the Lord and His instructions. We have also explained how the holy name of the Lord is not different from the Lord. So we have to mold ourselves in such a way that the mind is able to regularly remember and meditate at the lotus feet of the Lord. Obviously, if the mind and the senses are going to be engaged 24 hours a day in service to Krishna, there will not be time for Maya, for the senses and the mind and the intelligence. Man mana bhava man bhakto madhyaji man namaskuru. Make the mind your friend, not your enemy. How to make the mind our friend? Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati used to say, every morning when you get up, take your shoes and beat your head 100 times. And every night when you go to sleep, beat your head again 100 times. Of course, don't beat your head so hard that you may end up with a fracture in the hospital. So the point is, the mind is very turbulent. The mind doesn't know what is good for itself. Therefore, the business of the mind is to accept and reject. Today the mind likes everything you're doing. Tomorrow the mind will hate it. Today the mind likes going on a vacation. Tomorrow it says, no, go back home. The nature of the living entity is, he's never satisfied in his present position. He appears to think that if there's a little bit change of situation, there is going to be a much better life. As they say, grass is greener on the other side. Actually, the grass is not green anywhere. Just like in India. In India, they have billboards on the road, including from Aeroflot and Air India, which says, fly to Moscow and be happy. And in Moscow, they have billboards and advertisement brochures that say, fly to India and be happy. In England, they say, fly to Hawaii, California and be happy. And in California, where the weather is so good, they say, fly to Hawaii and be happy. So everybody is saying, you're not happy where you are. But just change your situation and happiness will automatically come. Just like when you're passing through a garden, just by smelling the flowers, you know the fragrance. So similarly, Krishna is sitting in the garden in the heart. And he can just by smelling know the desires of the living entity. So Krishna recognizes the sincerity of the individual and gives one the necessary intelligence. So the point is that the mind must be made your friend for spiritual advancement. At the present moment, the mind is your real enemy because the mind is only telling you how to engage in sense enjoyment. But when the mind helps you in spiritual realization, then the mind is considered to be your friend. Krishna's name is divine, and this point we discussed yesterday. And his pastimes are also eternal, and his transcendental qualities are also eternal. In other words, he is completely transcendental. Therefore, some or the other, if we can link ourselves up to Krishna, then human life will become successful. So with the mind and the tongue, we must proceed to understand Krishna. And if we are endeavoring to control the mind, Krishna says, 𝐾𝐢𝐬𝐭𝐫𝐚𝐜𝐿 Prapadyante. All of them as they surrender to me, I reward them accordingly. So Krishna will definitely help such a sincere candidate. So we not only chant at 16 rounds, but we chant the holy names of the Lord 24 hours. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Satatam Kirtayanto Mam. Always engage in chanting my glories. And anyone who always engages in remembering Krishna, he can never be touched by Maya. Maya cannot go near Krishna. Maya is scared of Krishna. Just like when you're scared of the policeman, a thief is scared of the policeman. The thief never comes in front of the policeman. He always operates behind the policeman. Similarly, Maya will never come in front of Krishna. It's always behind Krishna. So, by associating with the holy name, Binnatam Nama Namina, because there is no difference between the Lord and His holy name, one is associating with the Supreme Lord. So, chant 24 hours. Maharaj Amresh was offended by this Brahman, by this yogi, the Rasa Muni. So, the Rasa Muni went to the Lord because the Amresh Maharaj did not say anything when he was trying to destroy him with the help of a demon that he produced from his hair. But the Sudarshan Chakra of the Lord came to the relief of Amresh Maharaj, and the Sudarshan Chakra was chasing the Rasa Muni everywhere he ran. So, Amresh Maharaj, he had his mind fixed at the lotus feet of the Lord. Sarve Mana Krishna Padara Bindayo. The Rasa Muni had produced a big demon to burn Amresh. But because Amresh Maharaj had his senses fixed in service to Krishna, the Sudarshan Chakra of the Lord came to his rescue and saved him, and Amresh Maharaj was saved. And the Rasa Muni finally reached the Lord, and he begged the Lord. He said, please excuse me. I committed this great blunder at the feet of your devotee, Amresh Maharaj. Please excuse me. But the Lord said, I cannot excuse you. The Lord said, my devotees sacrifice everything for me. Therefore they reside in my heart, and I reside in their heart. This is the unique transcendental relationship between the Lord and His devotee. So the Lord told Durvasa that you have to go back and apologize to my devotee and not me. And when Durvasa came back and apologized to the devotee, Amresh Maharaj, then he was pardoned and the effects were withdrawn. So a devotee of the Lord who has given his mind to the Lord, he is very, very dear to the Lord. And because he is thinking of the Lord constantly, the Lord is also thinking of him. And if the mind is thinking of Krishna, and he cannot think of sex life and other material things, the mind is able to wander in material areas because it is not absorbed in Krishna. So the Lord and His pastimes, etc., everything is transcendental and eternal, as we had discussed yesterday. In this verse, Rupa Goswami says, one should reside in Vrindavan and serve Krishna under the guidance of a devotee. So, residing in Vrindavan doesn't mean residing in physical Brahman in India. Residing in Vrindavan means wherever you are, just remember Krishna. Like I was telling you last night, the mood of Vrindavan can be created anywhere. Because Vrindavan doesn't mean just a physical location. Vrindavan is the change of heart. And therefore, the true Vrindavan is established once you're fully absorbed in chanting and hearing. Some devotee may say, I'm doing a job, I'm a student, how can I chant 24 hours a day? Krishna is very practical. He doesn't give any theoretical advice. So if you're chanting and you're not able to chant because you have to go to a job or college or wherever, then you can at least remember the Lord when you are at work or wherever. And you can chant for the remaining portions of time when you come home. And since you have chanted sincerely, it's going to be easy to remember the Lord. Otherwise, to remember the Lord is going to be impossible. So, we have to create the mood of Vrindavan here in Riga. And even if you're in office or college, if you have chanted your rounds nicely, you'll be able to remember Krishna wherever you are. And as long as the mind is engaged positively, the negative thoughts will have no room. The mind, if it's not engaged, then the negative thoughts can have a dominant role. Krishna was asked in the Bhagavad Gita, how is one forced to engage in sinful acts against his wishes? Krishna replied, Arjuna, it is lust only, the all-devouring enemy of the living entity, which is always burning like fire and is never satisfied. And Krishna also tells Arjuna, Where is this enemy sitting? Lust. Mind, intelligence. Therefore, we have to conquer this enemy, lust, with the assistance of spiritual weapons. You can only control these senses by engaging them in a positive way. Therefore, the intelligence and the senses and the mind, where lust is sitting, should all be engaged positively. Then lust will have no place to sit. And if we are taking care of the intelligence and the mind, once you know where the enemy is, where the enemy is hiding, then it is not difficult to capture the enemy. So, Rupa Goswami is telling us, because please remember that in the previous 7 verses, Rupa Goswami has told us the importance of mind and sense control. He has told us the importance of spiritual association. He has told us how we can make advancement, how our advancement will be spoiled. He has told us that the holy name and his pastimes are always sweet. Now, after establishing all these points, Rupa Goswami is saying, all these points are meant to make you understand that you're supposed to think of Krishna 24 hours. So, the proof of our understanding the spiritual knowledge is to completely surrender to Krishna. Just like in India, you may meet so many people who know the Sanskrit language better than us, but they don't surrender to Krishna. So what good is that knowledge? And how to serve Krishna, how to avoid Maya, how to fight Maya, that Rupa Goswami says you can learn with the Rupa Goswami says that one should follow such devotees who are deeply attached to the process of devotional service. If you are attached to a weak devotee, then you will also become weak. And if you are attached to a strong devotee, then you will also become strong. Therefore, Rupa Goswami is saying, be attached. Take direction from somebody who is strong. So Rupa Goswami is telling us how to remain in Vrindavan 24 hours a day. Inquire and serve the pure devotee. Why are they called pure devotees? Because they are deeply attached to the transcendental pastimes of the Lord. Now the Muni has said that the 3 types of association that one can obtain. Association with those who are more advanced, equally advanced and less advanced. If you associate with those who are more advanced, then you pick up their good qualities and you're able to make spiritual advancement. If you associate with somebody who is equally advanced, then you can discuss Krishna Katha. And if you associate with somebody who is less advanced, Nada Muni says, then what do? Compassion. Then you display your compassion. So by following in the footsteps of the great devotees, Maya will not touch us even though we may be living in the material world. Maya will stay away. Krishna Surya Sama Maya Hayandika Yahan Krishna Taini Maya Dikada. Where there is Krishna, there is no room for Maya. Just like where there is sun, there is no room for darkness. So if the devotee is engaged in devotional service, he is going to be like a lotus flower. A lotus flower is in water, but the water doesn't touch the lotus flower. So being in the material world will not be able to touch him. How to deal with the material world? Prabhupada used to give a very nice example, which I will reveal to all of you. The mouth of the cat for the kitten, it is a source of shelter. You have seen in your country also how mother cat carries a baby, isn't it? When the baby cat sees the mother's mouth, you say, here my mother is. Just like I saw one mother there, she was carrying a baby. Where is that mother? The baby was feeling very comfortable in the mother's hands. So the mouth of the cat is a source of shelter for the kitten. But when the rat sees the mouth of the cat, what does it say? Here is my death. Now I'm finished. I'm going to be eaten. So similarly, the devotee. To the devotee, this material world has to be used in service to Krishna. Therefore, it is like the kitten in the mouth of the cat. But the materialist, he doesn't know how to use the material energy in service to Krishna. Therefore, for him, it is like, here's my death. So, Prabhupada is to give this example to show how a devotee fares in the material world and how a materialist fares in the material world. You see, the lotus flower is in water but is not touched by the water. So even though some of you may be doing jobs, some of you may be family men, some of you may have so many of your occupations, but your life will be so molded that you can practice Krishna consciousness 24 hours a day and still do your worldly duties. So, anyway, the point that I was making is this, that a devotee, if he learns how to use the mind and the senses in service to the Lord, that even though he may be a housewife, a householder, or in any situation, he will be able to pass the test of Krishna and still do his worldly duties. In the Bhagavad Gita, we see that Arjuna didn't want to engage in the battle. But Krishna told him, Arjuna, you have to fight. Arjuna said, how can I fight my kinsmen, my teachers, all these people who have trained me up? I can't fight them. Krishna said, you have to fight, but you have to fight for me. So Krishna gives us the instruction by saying, Tasmat sarveshu kaleshu mam anusvana yuddhacha. That fight for me without being attached to the results, without considering happiness or distress, victory or defeat. So Rupa Goswami's advice of this verse can be followed if we are very attentive Shravanam Kirtanam. Very attentive Shravanam Kirtanam will lead to attentive Smaranam and Vishnu Smaranam, and then you will be safe from the material influence. So Prabhupada explains in the purport that in the beginning when you try to remember Krishna, it may be interrupted at regular intervals. And in the beginning, of course, we'll find it difficult. But somehow or the other, we have to keep trying. If we keep trying, this process of devotional service is so perfect, you'll definitely succeed in the end. Sampati Dasa. Sampati Dasa means the perfection of life. So, Krishna conscious philosophy is very practical. Even if you're a housewife doing a job, or you're working in the factory, wherever you are, you can practice Krishna consciousness by taking advice of this verse. And therefore, you should be confident that by engaging in devotional service, you will discover a higher taste. And it is that higher taste that gives you the strength to give up your inferior activities. Due to ignorance, one may engage in so many silly activities. But once we come in knowledge, we should act correctly. A child when he's young, he sucks the thumb in the mouth. But the same child when he grows older, stops to suck the thumb. So similarly, before coming to Krishna consciousness, you're like a child who doesn't know what to do. So we may have engaged in so many sinful activities. But now that you have come to Krishna consciousness, you know what is your position, what's the position of Maya. Now you have to act correctly so that the goal of life should not be wasted. Maharaja Rishabdev also told his sons, my dear sons, Naham deha bhajam niloke kastam 𝐃𝐢𝐬𝐭𝐫𝐚𝐜𝐿 bhujam ye tapo devyam putraga yena sattvam. He said, my dear sons, please practice austerities. Don't live like the cats and dogs. And in exchange for these austerities, there is going to be some reward. What is that reward? Spiritual happiness. Just like if you go and work for 30 hours a week in the office, in exchange for the tapasya working in the office, what do you get? Salary. You go through an operation and you go through the pain of the operation. Why? Because you think that after this operation your body will become healthy. And once your body becomes healthy, you can resume sense enjoyment. So, just like in a material situation, you have to go through the inconvenience for a higher goal in the long run. Similarly, in spiritual life also, you sacrifice the immediate need in favor of a long-term need. So, when Rupa Goswami says that you must live in Vrindavan, it doesn't mean that you physically have to relocate to Vrindavan, but you must, wherever you are, the mood of Vrindavan must be created. That is to always remember Krishna and to have the desire to serve Krishna. And by being always with Krishna, by practicing rules and regulations, you'll be spiritually safe and Maya will not be allowed to penetrate. Just like if a man is very healthy, if you have a healthy body and you go in a diseased area, you don't get diseased. And if you have a weak body and you go to a diseased area, you get attacked in 1 minute. So if you're spiritually strong through the process of Shravanam Kirtanam, then you will have the strength to face Maya. But if you are spiritually weak, then how will you face? Then you will get attacked by Maya. Therefore, you must be spiritually strong so the germs of sense gratification do not destroy your spiritual creeper. So Prabhupada has clearly stated in the purport, the Krishna conscious movement is meant to train the mind. So the process of rules and regulations that we have in Krishna consciousness is a means to control the indisciplined mind. So making the mind our friend is our business. Right now the mind is your enemy number one. You may think, this devotee is my enemy, this devotee is my enemy. No one is your enemy. Your own mind is your enemy.
Srila Prabhupada said that we must chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra without any spaces, like a river coming into the ocean. And also it is said that after each round we should chant Shri Krishna Chaitanya mantra. And
Prabhupada said after each Hare Krishna mantra round. So what is her question?
And it seems to be a contradiction.
What is her question? If after every round, if you want to chant Jai Shri Krishna, you can, but it is not compulsory. If you want to do it, there's no harm.
The God, Krishna has 6 qualities, full of knowledge, full of bliss, etc. And which name indicates that he is full of renunciation.
Aishwarasya samagrasya viryasha yashashashriya jnana gyavas sanna bhaga itin gina. So Parsa Muni, the father of Vyasadeva, has said, this word Bhagavan can be used only with reference to anyone who has 6 qualities to an unlimited degree. Aishwarasya samagrasya means he is the richest of all. Viryasha means he is the strongest. Yashasha, he is the most famous. Shriya, most beautiful. Jnana, most knowledgeable. And Vairagya, renounced. What's the offenses for prasad? You should not waste prasad. Not waste, not throw it away. When you're offering prasad, when you're cooking prasad for Krishna, don't think you're cooking for yourself. You should not look at prasad from a lusty angle. If you think that prasad is ordinary food, that is also offensive. And prasad should not be wasted. On your plate, you should only take as much prasad as you can put in your stomach. Don't take more prasad than you can put in your stomach. When Prabhupada was like the temple president, when he first formed the society in San Francisco, if any prasad was left over, he would have the cook eat it. So the cook has a responsibility of making sure that he does not overcook.
Nityananda Prabhu had thus gave the holy names to Jagai Madhya, which offended them, and so on. And the question is it offense if we say about holy name to non-devotees on the street?
On the one hand, we have Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's instruction, Jare Dakho Tahe Kaho Krishna Upadeśāmṛta. Whoever you see, tell him about Krishna. On the other hand, 9th offense is to preach the glories of the Lord to the faithless. So, how do you balance the two? You can tell everyone you meet on the street to chant Hare Krishna, no problem. But don't tell him the deep meaning of Hare Krishna. Hare is an address to the energy of Krishna, the glories, the confidential meaning of Hare Krishna. Just like when you meet a man on the street, he'll say, what's your name? So you can tell him what your name is. But when you meet him on the street, you don't tell him, my name is so-and-so, my father's name is so-and-so, my wife's name is so-and-so, I have so much money in the bank, and this is where I have my bank, and I get 200 rubles salary. You don't tell him all that on the road. All that you will tell him once you get to know him better. I feel so bad that I'm not able to speak Russian and understand Russian. I enjoy the preaching in your country because all of you are very inquisitive. The only little frustration I have is my inability to speak your language.
And the question is why one person is chaste, another is not chaste. What is the reason of it? Because
Because preaching, book distribution, all was very important. If we were to do 64 rounds a day, then there would have been no time for book distribution or anything.
And the question is, how can we understand the individuality of the soul? Can you give some example to show this?
How the soul is individual.
Yeah.
You are individual, I am individual, so the soul is also individual. What more example do you need? I don't see what example you need for this. You are separate, I am separate, we are all separate. So, what is the need? Where is the problem? So, I'm going to ask you some questions. I'll ask you questions for 5-10 minutes. I want to see how good you devotees are doing. And after that, I will take a 1-hour break. Actually, I've been feeling a little sick since yesterday, so I need a 1-hour break before I start my next class. And then we will discuss the Sri Ishopanishad. There's a very, very interesting verse and purport from Ishopanishad today. So, what is Rupa Goswami saying in the verse that we read today? No reading books. If you read the book in answer, then you get half the marks. And if you reply from memory, you get full marks.
The point is that man should
engage in service 24 hours a day.
24 hours a day, and it will convert the atmosphere of Vrindavan.
One point he left out.
And we must accept one confidential devotee of the Lord and follow by his footsteps.
But from a practical angle, how is it possible to be in devotional service for 24 hours? I have my wife, my children, my job in the factory. Everyone cannot be full-time brahmachari doing books. Does this mean that if I cannot serve 24 hours, then I have no place in Krishna consciousness?
If we had some job, we must remember during this time about Krishna, and other time we should chant. And we must chant our 16 hours very attentively. And in this case, we can remember Krishna another 22 hours.
Just like I gave this example the other day somewhere else. If you recharge your batteries, you have those battery rechargers. You can recharge your batteries for 4-5 hours, and then they will play for another 5 hours. Then again you have to recharge them. And who knows the example of the marriage party? What is the purport of the example of the marriage party?
We can try very hard to chant mantra and so on, but if he has big material desires, our progress will be slow, very slow.
Yes, but what is the purport of that story of the marriage party that I said? Now, what is that example I gave, which Prabhupada used to give, of how a devotee should behave in the material world? Boris? I said that in the class. Okay, is my question clear? I gave 2 examples of how today I gave a lot of examples in the class. So I gave 2 examples of how a devotee deals in the material world and is not affected by it.
He's saying that if devotee works in Krishna consciousness 24 hours a day, Maya will stay behind.
I'm asking specifically for examples. I gave 2 examples. Yes, what did he say?
About the mouth of a cat.
Okay. Which is the other example that Mataji did? Yeah, lotus flower. Very good. This lotus flower example is in which book? Chaitanya Charitamrita, Chaitanya Bhagavad, Upadeśāmṛta. Which book is it in? Say the answer if you know. Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, where is it?
Bhagavad Gita.
Okay. The answer is Bhagavad Gita. I was just misleading you all by saying Chaitanya Charitamrita and Chaitanya Bhagavad. I want to stop now. And tomorrow, Gadadhar, I have to leave at 4 o'clock, so I want to start the program early. Tomorrow I'll start the program at 10 o'clock or 10:30. It's Saturday. Tomorrow I'll start the program at 10 o'clock in the morning. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So it's 4 o'clock now. We will start again at 5 o'clock. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.